people completed the transaction immediately with no conditions precedent. Yeah. So there are two things they were saying. One is that they wanted to reevaluate everything due to the large impact of COVID. And secondly, they had a lot of conditions that we had to meet, some of which were very difficult to meet within the time frame that the debt was becoming due. So we had discussions with them wherein we said that these are not possible. And, it's very important that we close immediately. We spent more than a year after the agreement to try to close those conditions, some of which they also had to conclude. So it was in the interest of the company and in the interest of the lenders that we go ahead with Adani Group as they brought in the money immediately. I wouldn't say it is a distress sale because the transaction we had concluded with the foreign investors was before COVID.
Okay.
And he agreed to meet the same terms and conditions, even though it is after COVID.
Okay.
So I wouldn't say it's a distress sale, but it was distress from the perspective that we had to pay the lenders and we did not want to default with the lenders.
All right, viewers, let's go ahead and play out the reaction from Rahul Gandhi, what Rahul Gandhi had said. Remember that Rahul Gandhi had alleged that there was pressure. The pressure to, in fact, he had clearly said that there was some pressure which was put on the GVK group to sell its stake in Mumbai airport. So that was allegation coming in from Rahul Gandhi. Let's play out that reaction, Rahul Gandhi, what he had said.
Strategic, profitable airport, Mumbai airport, was taken away by GVK, hijacked by using the agencies. The agencies को CBI, ED का प्रयोग कर GVK पर दबाव डालकर हिंदुस्तान की सरकार ने उस एयरपोर्ट को अदानी जी के हाथों में कर दिया। रिजल्ट क्या आया? रिजल्ट आया कि एयरपोर्ट्स में आज अदानी जी 24% हिंदुस्तान की एयर ट्रैफिक को अपने एयरपोर्ट से निकालते हैं और 31% एयर फ्रेट उनके एयरपोर्ट्स में से निकलता है। तो मदद कैसे हो रही है? हिंदुस्तान के पब्लिक सेक्टर बैंक्स का पैसा, LIC का पैसा नरेंद्र मोदी जी, अदानी जी को दिया जा रहा है। अगर कोई सामने खड़ा हो जाता है, जैसे जीवी के लोग खड़े हुए, ईडी, सीबीआई एजेंसीज आ जाती हैं, उनको परे कर देती हैं।
All right, viewers, right now we're being joined by our guest right now who's joining us live on the broadcast. We have Rohit Srivastava, founder of India Charts. We have Akash Jindal, economist and market expert, joining us. I want to go to you first, Akash Jindal, who's an economist and market expert. What is the first reaction coming in? Because the kind of allegation which was made by Rahul Gandhi completely, it has been confronted by the GVK, who's clearly saying that there was no pressure at all. And in fact, Rahul Gandhi had gone on to even say that agencies such as CBI and ED were used. And then after that, the Mumbai airport was taken away from GVK using agencies and was given to Adani by the government of India.
Well, I have respect for Rahul Gandhi ji, but what we have heard from GVK tells a story which clearly says that it was debt. It was debt. The problem was debt. And because of that debt, they had taken a decision. So now since we have heard it from the GVK man itself, so I think this leads to a lot of discussion and debate that when GVK person is saying that it was because of the debt that they had to take this decision. So it's quite apparent and clear that GVK was perhaps under debt. That's why they had to sell this airport.
Right. I just want to go across to my colleague Suesha, who's also joining us from the Delhi newsroom. Suesha, we can go ahead and take a question. We also have Rohit Srivastava, founder India Charts. This is a very big story and all the channels are following Republic's lead on the story. Suesha.
Yes, absolutely. In fact, I wanted to take this point to you, Rohit, that it is extremely embarrassing for a politician of this stature to make such claims in the parliament and in front of the entire country without doing their fact check. And, with GVK's response coming in so bluntly that it was a clear business transaction. It was not done under any duress. It was not a distress sale. This is hugely embarrassing for Rahul Gandhi today.
Yeah, well, I think, from a financial market standpoint, I think what we really want to see is this issue blow over. The sooner the better. I think even the RBI has given a lot of clarifications related to the loans. Even the GVK issue, as far as it is concerned, from what I remember, is exactly the same, that when the sale happened, what was told to the markets at that point of time was that it was a debt-related sale. There are so many companies that went through bankruptcy proceedings between 2018 and 2020. And these sales had to be done to bring back financial viability for these companies. So I think that's what we thought it was then. And so it surely would be a surprise if it turned out to be something else.
Oh, yes, absolutely. And Akash, if I can come back to you on this, to really break down what happens, because in this particular case, as GVK has put it across, that during COVID, they went through massive financial losses. They had approached a couple of people because they knew that they will not be able to handle their debts. And it was Gautam Adani who had made a straight offer, that too on the terms and conditions of GVK, basis which they went ahead with that deal. And it had no political connection. It had nothing to do with any other thing except for the losses that they were going through and the debts that they had to repay, which was done in time, and that is what suited the interest of GVK. Then why is it that we see such political mudslinging on this?
See, debt has been a problem. As an economist, what I would say, debt has been a problem with many of the corporates, because COVID and post-COVID, there were many things which were not proper for many corporates. So because COVID, it disturbed calculations, it disturbed cash flows. Perhaps the airport was also closed during that time. So COVID did create problems. And I can understand this fact that many of the Indian corporates had huge debts piled up. Because of COVID, they had problems with the cash flow. They had not anticipated that there would be a huge lockdown and things would turn the way they have turned. So COVID was a shock and it disturbed many of the corporates. So there could be a possibility very much that, yes, COVID disturbed their cash flows, and there is a possibility that there could have been heavy debt. And naturally, every corporate would like to rescue himself from debt. So in case he has taken a decision because it was high debt, so in case he has sold it because of high debt, so it could be a corporate decision. Corporates do take such decision because no corporate would like to be saddled with high debt. And post-COVID also, we know there were restrictions as far as flights were concerned. Business was not that high. So perhaps the future also, maybe they didn't see much bright future. So maybe because of that, the deal could have been taken.
All right, Akash and Rohit, please stay on with us. Of course, Shivangi, we have breaking news coming in the Our Business segment. And let's quickly tell our viewers, after which, Rohit, I'd like to come to you on this, as the RBI on Wednesday has hiked the key benchmark policy rate by 25 basis points to 6.5%, citing sticky core inflation. And this is the sixth time interest rate has been hiked by the RBI since May last year, taking the total quantum of hike to 250 basis points. Announcing the bi-monthly monetary policy, RBI Governor Shaktikanta Das has said that the MPC, that is the Monetary Policy Committee, has decided to raise the policy repo rate by 25 basis points and keep a strong vigil on inflation outlook. Policy rate at 6.5% still trails the pre-pandemic level, and Shaktikanta Das has said that core inflation will remain sticky. Rohit, if I can come back to you on this, to break down the larger policy decision which the RBI has taken at this point to continue with a sustainable economy and reduce the shocks as much.
Yeah, I think it's a very fine balancing act which RBI has done, because RBI had two things which we were expecting from RBI Monetary Policy Committee. Now this has representatives from RBI as well as Government of India. on one hand, they had to control inflation. On the other hand, they wanted to have some focus on growth. See, one thing is very clear in the RBI policy that we are expected to exhibit 7% GDP growth this financial year. So one thing is very well reiterated from the RBI numbers that under the guidance of our visionary Prime Minister Narendra Modi, our economy is going to be the fastest growing economy this year amongst all other major economies. If you compare us with US, Germany, UK, we are much, much better than other economies. These are the bigger economies. Even if you compare us with smaller economies like Sri Lanka, Pakistan, or even Bangladesh as of now, because Bangladesh also had to approach IMF because of their forex issues. So one thing is very clear, because of the visionary guidance of our Prime Minister Narendra Modi, our economy is the fastest growing. Now, as far as this policy rate is concerned, repo rate is concerned, so RBI has struck a fine balance between inflation control and growth. Because what happens is, with the interest rate increase, what happens is demand shrinks. Now, shrinkage of demand means control of inflation, because in a country like ours, inflation control is very, very important, because we have to think from the term of the people who are in lower middle class, people who are amongst the BPL society. So I think it's a fine thing which they have done to control inflation. But what I can guess from RBI's statement today is that perhaps we may not have any further escalation in rate of interest going ahead. That's the relief. Of course, there could be some problems for those people who have taken home loans on floating rate of interest. There could be escalation in the EMI, because some people would have taken the loans prior to this policy. There have been rate increases earlier also in the past 3 to 4 months. There could be some problems for that. But according to my organization, akashindal.in, these could be short-term problems, because we have to see both things. We have to control inflation also. Growth also has to be there. And for the next year also, what is very positive is RBI has set 6.4%. That is also very encouraging, because see, we have to see when the world is going through recession. Countries like UK are so close to recession. America last year, for 2 quarters, they had negative GDP growth.
Yes.
China, the second biggest economy, had just 3% GDP growth in last year. We are expected to grow 7% this year, 6.4% in the coming year. So it very well tells that our economy is being very well handled by our government. And in spite of initially COVID, then followed by Russia-Ukraine war, our government has done a brilliant management. And it's not only me, akashindal or akashindal.in. Global agencies are also saying last year when the world was going through recession, India was the only shining star which could perform much better than others. Yes, high inflation has been there till October. The CPI inflation was at 6.7%, because we also have been impacted by Russia-Ukraine war. But the impact on India has been much, much lesser in comparison with a bigger economy like America or UK or Germany or China, and also in comparison with smaller economies like Sri Lanka or Pakistan, or for that matter, economies like Bangladesh. So this clearly proves that India is being navigated very well as far as economy is concerned. I would rather congratulate our Honorable Prime Minister and the Finance Minister, the way they have managed the economy during dire states and during the toughest of times. So this is something which clearly tells how well our economy has been managed and how we are going to deliver coming year also. Yeah.
Yes. In fact, Akash, I wanted to take the exact same point to Rohit also. Rohit, like Akash is mentioning, that inflation by and large is a bigger challenge for global superpowers at this point in comparison to India. And how the IMF has also maintained that with the way India is growing, it is one thing to be sustainable. On the contrary, we are maintaining our growth trajectory and moving in the upward path. And this is really how the government is also building its policies in line with that. Would you agree that this particular decision taken by the RBI is really for larger sustainable growth and for the growth trajectory to move up for our economy?
See, there's no doubt that the RBI has been supportive of growth. I think they've said that all of last year, and it's there in their actions. Even when the world was going through a tightening scenario, the Reserve Bank did hold back on raising rates aggressively at first, which sort of is supportive. Even keeping liquidity conditions easy for a prolonged period of time is also the reason why financial markets in India did better than many other parts of the world. And on the last 12 months, when you've seen US equities fall almost 20 to 30%, the Indian stock market has actually been quite resilient. So I think sort of part of that credit goes to the way RBI has managed monetary policy. Now, having said that, what has ended up happening in many parts of the world, not just India, if you look at Japan or you look at the Eurozone, many of them held back raising rates till much later part of this year. And now, when US is slowing down its rate hikes, most of the other economies are being forced to continue their rate hikes because inflation remains slightly elevated in other parts of the world. So this is something we are dealing with. But I think more than that, and this is what RBI doesn't say, they do say that monetary policy is not being used to manage the currency, but we have had a current account deficit problem during this entire period. And to some extent, to keep the currency from, falling too much, we are in a situation where, we are not right now getting support from FIs because foreign institutional investors have been, selling in equity markets relentlessly throughout the last month, not just because of the Adani issue, but in general, over the last 2-3 months, we see a lot of selling by institutional investors. That sort of removed the currency support that we usually get when FII flows take place. And they help us to actually manage, the CAD problem that we typically have. So that is missing. And I think in that scenario, raising rates to manage the currency is also an important part of the whole scenario. So they've done that. Otherwise, you'd see the rupee really weaken beyond the 83 rupee level. So once they can get, the currency under balance, and then inflation comes down, I think we'll have a much stronger footing. So I think that's where we are in the overall scenario.
Absolutely. And in fact, Rohit and Akash, at a time when the instability due to the Adani controversy is being questioned, Shaktikanta Das has also spoken on this very matter. In fact, I'd like to read out that exact quote on the lender's exposure to Adani Group, where he said that Indian banking sector, including NBFCs, continues to be resilient. Strong appraisal methods of Indian banks have significantly improved over the years. Banks do not lend against market capitalization of a company. Calls are made on fundamentals of a firm. He's also said that RBI has made an assessment of lenders' exposure to Adani Group firms. Large exposure guidelines have been complied with by all the banks. RBI Deputy Governor M.K. Jain has said that banks' exposure to Adani Group is not very significant. Akash, if I could come to you on this, should this now put that debate to rest? And, the confusion that is also being spread in the way that it is being politicized, because the RBI is clearly stating that we are stable, and most importantly, all guidelines have been complied with by the banks. This is extremely important because we are not in the 90s anymore, where a lot of rules could be flouted with under the garb of playing around with technicalities. Now our banking system is far more stronger, and the RBI clearing that front through this statement.
See, what I have made out is in the past 2 days, 3 days, I have seen a statement from Adani Group that they are planning to prepay some of their debt. Now that gives a lot of confidence. That would be giving a lot of confidence to their customers in different fields. They are a big industrial group. They have many customers as far as their infrastructure projects is concerned, ports, cement. They have many customers in engineering, project execution, infrastructure, energy. So I think Adani Group coming with a statement that they are planning to prepay some of the debt would have, I think, given a confidence to a lot of their customers who are dealing with them in various fields, who are buying cement from them, who are dealing with them in energy, infrastructure. Now, as far as Adani Group is concerned, one thing I want to say is, see, of course, I won't make a political statement. I am not a political person. I am an economist. That whenever we talk about Adani Group, one thing comes to my mind. We have to see the contribution which Adani Group has made. See, I mean, big industrial groups are required in this country. Big industrial groups have contributed a lot to our GDP growth. Big industrial groups have been huge contributors as far as tax is concerned, GST, income tax. Similarly, big industrial groups have given employment opportunities to a lot of people. Now, Adani Group is in so many fields. They have given so many employment opportunities in various companies. So we have to see this thing also. These are the industrialists who add to our GDP. They play an important role in our GDP. They are the ones who mobilize decent amount of taxes, and taxes are something which are required for the economy, for growth, for welfare. And of course, if a industrialist like Mr. Gautam Adani comes with a huge infrastructure project, what does it mean? Jobs at all levels. And that is something which we need.
Right.
These are times of global crisis. So I
Right.
think apparently what comes to my mind is that
Yes.
any big industrialist, I'm not talking about Mr. Adani only, any big industrialist, the government should help big industrialists because we need investment, we need money. So I think overall, whenever any analysis is done, it should be taken in mind the sort of contributions they have given to the GDP, the contribution they have given as far as tax is concerned, the contribution they have given in terms of employment. And according to me,
Right.
Adani Group has been a big industrial group. They are in so many fields. So they would have definitely played a huge role in the development and growth of our
Yes.
country. And infrastructure is something where we need industrialists plus job opportunities. So I think this angle also needs to be seen. Of course, other things are being explored. Time would tell how things fare out. I'm not commenting on other things, what exactly the issue has been. But my humble request to all people is that we should see this group in this light, the sort of contribution they have given. They are into infrastructure, gas, they are into so many fields, energy, and all these fields are very relevant to our country because infrastructure is something we have to actually compete with China. See, why China raced ahead of us was that they built huge infrastructure 10 years, 8 years ago, which we couldn't. So now we have to catch up with them or compete with them. That also, at a moment when Chinese economy is down, we can definitely grow our
Right,
infrastructure and
right.
outshine.
Akash,
So
you
we
make a
need
very
to-
valid point there, and I'm sure Rohit is also in agreement with you because the very fact that this statement is now out by the RBI should bring about that positive response and reflect in the market sentiment. Also, like you said, that several factors need to be looked into, and one report cannot be have a standpoint alone and reflect opinions accordingly. On that note, let's toss it back to the studio where my colleague Shivangi is, as we have more breaking inputs coming in.